Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of LFC Transfer Room's Saturday Night Club. Thanks for joining us on your Saturday night. We are getting ever closer to the transfer window, so we will be discussing all things transfers. But more importantly, there's a massive match tomorrow, the first home game at Anfield under the Arne Slot era. And I think we've probably got someone in the chat who's going tomorrow as well. So we'll get into the match preview as well as some Ian Doyle comments and the Liverpool Echo comments about not getting in a 6, but we'll again unpick all of those things. There's actually no agenda tonight, or if there was, I haven't looked, and neither of the lads. So we're just winging this one. So it'll be fun. So any questions, please put into the comments. If there's anything that you'd like for us to discuss, again, please put in the comments and get involved as much as you can. We'll give as many shout outs as we can. But tonight I'm joined by my former podcast co-host, Matty. How are you? It's been a while since you and I have been on together for a few months.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't really do Saturdays, to be honest. Since having a baby, it's one of the only days. Sorry, the only days I have off with them. So yeah, that's tough to do. But yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Even better to have a triple captain Haaland and charge me way to top of fantasy footy. That's what we want.
Yeah, well, I didn't really want to talk about that, if I'm honest, because like I say, it was a good chat. If I had Haaland, like I said to you earlier, I would have done the same because it was a good fixture for him. Saturday nights, it's only really for us antisocial folk on a Saturday. So welcome. Willem, you mentioned previously that you were less hungover than last week, so there's progress there. How are you?
Yeah, fine. I just decided to be social on Friday this week instead of Saturday. Really, that was it. And now I've joined it on this time. Yeah, no, it is. I've been able to move around physically and just I've only just felt like crap inside and that's it. But for the rest, it's been okay for the rest of it.
I would personally much rather go out on a Friday night because then your Sundays isn't wasted and you're back at work on a Monday. Like Friday nights for me is the far better night to go out. You've got all of Saturday to chill and watch back-to-back football games whilst hungover, So for me, Friday's the best night. And Patricio, welcome again. Glad that you could join us and glad that you're coming back week after week because normally what we do on the Saturday Night Club is we don't have people coming back-to-back because they're like, nah, I ain't doing that again.
Yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed it last Saturday. It was good, especially after the match as well. It's a shame though because tomorrow I've got a barbecue at the time that the match is on. So I'm wondering, do I get it on my phone to the side? I don't know. I don't know if it's a bit rude or not, but I want to watch it.
There's nothing rude about that. You take a massive iPad or the biggest device that you can have, plonk it right in the middle of the barbecue and say, listen, I'm watching Liverpool Football Club, sorry.
Thing is, I'm the only Liverpool fan there. I've got Chelsea fans.
Is there any Brentford fans around there? Just someone who wants to watch footy. That's what you need to do. You just need to find one person who's also going oh, I actually really want to watch it. And as soon as you're in a group, it feels like it's okay because more people want to do it.
Even if they're not Liverpool fans as well, if they're football fans, then everyone loves a Super Sunday, don't they? So I'm sure you'll be all right. You'll have to give us the updates though. Let's go straight in then to the match preview then, Matty, because it was a really good performance, I thought, second half last week. I thought the first half left a lot to be desired, but the second half performance from Liverpool really, hit the Arne Slot era in terms of how he wants to play, what we saw in that pre-season, the games against Sevilla, Arsenal and Manchester United, Betis to an extent as well. Again, let's go from back to front then, and let's talk about the defence because we know that the goalkeeper Alisson is going to start. He's the best in the world, and he's maybe the best in the Premier League era for Liverpool. I personally think he is. But is that back four unchanged for you?
No, I think Konate will start instead of Kwanzaa. Nothing to do with last week. I think it was Kwanzaa's got an injury, hasn't he? He didn't train for 2 of the days this week, so you'd assume that would mean Ibu starts. Not against Kwanzaa. I think if he's third choice, which he probably is this year, then that's fantastic for him. To be fair, doing that after one season, and he's still only young, he is going to make mistakes. He wasn't great against Ipswich, to be fair, but he's going to have them games at his age. You know what I mean? So I think Ibu starts against Ipswich, and that's the only change I'd make.
It worked though, didn't it, Matty? Really swapping, Quansah for Ibu, because Delap was a handful, and I thought Quansah still played well. I think Slot afterwards really was keen to point out actually it wasn't just him who was losing the duels; it was everybody. But we did look at a different team the second half, and Delap didn't have a sniff. And it's horses for courses this year when you're looking at Quansah and Ibu. Swapping each other teams over for physical strikers. I'd assume it's not going to be even Tony starts. I'd assume it's going to be Wissa. And again, Ibu has the qualities there to, calm Johan Wissa a little bit more.
Yeah, for me, Ibu's one of the best centre halves in the world when he's fit. There's people in our chat who don't rate him, and it's bizarre. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. For me, when he's fit and available, he's one of the best centre halves there is in the world. 100%. So for me, when he's fit, he's got to start. I think he's fantastic next to Van Dijk. I think any striker in the world he'd give a good game against, to be fair. So yeah, for me, he's got to start. I think he is ahead of Quansah, but who knows? All it takes is a mistake. We've seen against Ipswich, Quansah didn't have the best of start, so we brought Ibu in. If Ibu has a game like that, Quansah will be back, and I rate it. It makes players always on the game, to be fair. So I do rate that approach.
Yeah, me too. And I think Ibu with Trent as well. That's the cover that you want when Trent goes forward. Ibu comes across like it's flawless. I think he's perfect for that system. Especially when Trent is going forward. You probably won't see him wander into his midfield as much, hopefully, if I'm honest. But yeah, Ibu for me, he's him and Van Dijk. There's not too many better partnerships in the Premier League than those two. But Willem, I suppose the question is keeping Ibu fit is going to be the difficult, part of all of his footballing career, I suppose. He picks up knocks and he picks up niggles. He's out for a week here and there. There's nothing ever significant, which is a good thing. But again, it's keeping Ibu fit. And we've mentioned Jota before, who we'll move on to. He's the same as well. If they can keep fit, they are game changers for Liverpool. Do you think this system, because people have spoken about this system is, I suppose, more friendly in terms of keeping players fit? Do you think that this system that Slot's having, not the gang and press and the heavy metal football, slightly less intensity, more control and possession based, is that a better fit for Konate and the rest of these players who could perhaps pick up an injury here and there?
I mean, I think it definitely can play a role in some sort of a form. I think it's never really like a definitive thing where you can say one style is causing less types of injuries than another style is. I think for me personally as well, what has got more to do with it over the years is just the increase of the amount of games every time the players go through, making them more susceptible to injuries over time. I think that doesn't help already when you're already an injury-prone player, in the case of a Konate and like a Jota. Obviously, look, if it were up to me, yes, the style of play makes a massive difference, and they won't get injured the entire time. But it's just something you can't guarantee at any point, and it doesn't really matter what style, what manager you're under. Injuries just happen. So I think it's always a very weird one. I think it's one of them where it can happen where all of a sudden they play a full season next season, they've got no problem, and then they're out for 5 months the season after. So it's just one of those where you truly really can't tell. So and especially with those kind of players, they can even have a full season without having it, but it will come back to bite later on anyway, most of the time.
Talk about the centre-back partnership. Let's talk about Van Dijk then, Patricio, because, I think for many people here, I know Matty named his dog after Virgil van Dijk. He's such an integral player, and he has been under, this Liverpool team for so many years. How important is it that his contract gets sorted out, pretty soon? And I'm not talking, like I said last week, contracts don't have to be sorted in the transfer window, So I think palming off, they're not sorted yet. It doesn't matter as much because you can do that over the next couple of months. As long as it's done before January and these players can't leave within 6 months of their contract expiring, how important is it that these contracts get finished, and especially for Virgil van Dijk, that, he signs on the dotted line and we know what we're doing and moving forwards?
I think it means more because he's the captain as well. He doesn't seem to be too concerned about it, but there doesn't seem to be anything happening. Like you said, there is still time, but you feel like with these three important players, with Trent, Mo and Virgil, you'd want to get it done once they reach under the 2-year point. So you think those would be sorted. I understand with Trent it's a bit more difficult with the wages that he'll be wanting, but I think it should be pretty straightforward of who we're keeping. They should have had these conversations and whether they're going to let the contract run out, which I don't think is very smart, especially for Mo. I think we can have Virgil for at least a few more seasons. And then with Trent, he's gonna. Well, I would like him to be our future captain as well. I think he's even spoken about it as well. Hopefully, being the future captain. So he's got a long time still left in him, especially coming into his prime. So I think it does need to get sorted. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about it, seeing as it doesn't need to be done in the transfer window. As long as it's done by January, like you said, then we'll be all right.
Yeah, I do think, as we said last week, it's negligent really to allow 3 of our best players to wind down a contract within a year of themselves. It doesn't matter if the new manager wants them or not. Like, you hold down your highest value players by offering them contracts, and that's what Liverpool should have done. And, that is on hierarchy. That's not even on Hughes, because this should have been done before Richard Hughes even set foot in Liverpool Football Club. But I'm sure, as we all know, that these contracts will get done. If I'm honest, I think Mo is the one who's most at risk because he's listen, if Jamie Vardy's banging in goals at 37, Mo definitely can. But I do think, the offers are going to come in for Mo. And I do think Trent is loyal. He's a scouser. I think that even if Madrid came knocking, he would stay for Liverpool for a little bit. And he certainly won't want to leave on a free. And as you said, Van Dijk's the captain as well. Matty, talking then, we'll mix in a little bit of transfers into our match preview as well. Jay asks, if VVD stays, don't expect Inacio to come. Inacio would be a good VVD replacement and wants playing time like any young player. This is Liverpool Football Club we're talking about. This isn't Sporting Lisbon. My point of view is he might be happy to share the minutes. He could fill in a left back as well, perhaps. But what are your views there on what Jay's quite rightly said as well? It's a really good point.
I think Inacio could still come, to be fair. You sell it to him as you are. Yes, you probably are going to be Virgil van Dijk's long-term replacement, but we are not prepared. We're Liverpool Football Club. We're not prepared to take a risk to put you in and let go of Virgil in even 12 months. So I think if Virgil signs a new deal, he'll probably do another 2 years, maybe 3 years tops. So then Inacio's coming in and learning from one of the best, if not the best, centre-half we've ever seen. And he's learning off that for like 2-3 years. The amount of games he plays in a season, I think he would play probably talking 30-40 games a season still. And Van Dijk can play the right centre-back role as well. Granted, not as good as he can at left, but he can play right centre-back. So there'll be times where he'll play Van Dijk and Inacio anyway. So Michael Edwards is notorious for future planning. Look what he's doing with the keeper. He's putting that keeper in, and so you'd assume Alisson's going in a year, 2 years, but by the sounds of it. So they're bringing him in. That's what Michael Edwards does. He future-proof. So Inacio will probably be Van Dijk's long-term replacement. But because Michael Edwards is the one calling the shots, I think he'd still come in anyway, because that's just what Liverpool seem to do under Edwards.
Yeah, and as Ollie quite rightly says there as well, we do sort of need to be hurried up, but I suppose he's not coming in for a few years, and it's moving on behind the scenes. It does feel very, very slow. And most transfers do take, you look at the turnover of Calafiori, I know that there was, certain add-ons in there. But transfers nowadays, they do take time. It seems to be a lot more paperwork involved than just getting over the line. And then just the final point, I suppose, is that I think Sepp himself would have been 5th or 6th choice centre-back. I think if we sign Inacio, he probably comes in, in 3rd or 4th choice behind Ibu and Van Dijk. And then,
Sepp's never a starting centre-back for Liverpool, is he really? He's a very, very good Premier League player, but he's, if you want to win Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, is Sepp Van den Berg going to win you? Then probably not. He's a very, very good centre-half, and he was fantastic last year at Mainz, but he weren't competing on all fronts at Mainz either. So I think if he was competing on all fronts, someone you'd have to win you then. Maybe he makes a name for himself at Brentford, but I think he's probably a very good Premier League player, but not like a Liverpool, City, Arsenal Premier League player, mate.
Yeah, and I do think he was behind Gomez and Quanta in the pecking order, and I think Inacio could come in and make a bit more of a claim than Sepp could. Willem, let's talk about the midfield then. If we're still staying with the double pivot, who's your starting midfield? Are we staying the same? And I including obviously that 10 in there. So who are you playing in that 6-8 hybrid? I suppose the 2 players and then the 1 in the 10.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't change it. I think in general, to be fair, I don't think apart from Kanate, we'll be changing the team at all in general. But also just based off of the second half, how they turned it around compared to the fluidity they kind of had in the first half, if they can kind of build off from that second half performance, I think there's no reason why to change them, because if they start off tomorrow the same way that they started that second half, we should be having quite an easy game against Brentford, because we did look that good in my opinion as well. So I don't see the reason for it. I do obviously at some point think, when will Harvey Elliott come in, because I do want to see more of Harvey. But as of right now, I don't really see the reason as to swap Harvey for Szoboszlai immediately, especially seeing as Szoboszlai was also really quite good. So yeah, I would very boring keep the same 3. Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. The fact that Harvey didn't get any minutes actually quite surprised me, because I thought he was one of our best players, if not the best player in pre-season. But yeah, I probably can't disagree. Patricio, is there any movement in that midfield 3 for you? And I say the 3, obviously, I'm talking about the 2 and the 1 at the top.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like Gravenberch he's proven himself. He's doing well, especially in the second half. So I think it will be the same. Obviously, you're gonna play McAllister. I mean, like William said, we're not too sure. I would like to see Elliot have some minutes, but maybe rest Mo a little bit and maybe bring Elliot on the right wing. I don't know if that's a smart option or not. Maybe like a second half or towards the end of the match, bring Elliot on. I don't know if he's going to take the spot from Szoboszlai, especially if I know we got Jones there as well. Maybe if Endo comes on and Gravenberch pushes up higher, that allows Maka to then sort of push up even more. So yeah, I don't see any changes happening other than Kanate. I think that's the only one.
Yeah, and also, the Elliott shout, I suppose it depends on how the game goes. We have got Manchester United at Old Trafford, which is notoriously a really difficult fixture for Liverpool. I know that Jurgen Klopp had his amazing win where, Old Trafford emptied at half time, but at the same, in the same breath, he also didn't win that many times over at Old Trafford, and Liverpool don't tend not to. So it might be an idea, if the game's going well, is to rest the players, the likes of Salah and the likes of Szoboszlai. But again, I suppose it's dependent on how the game goes. I think personally, to answer Ollie's question, and please, if you disagree, lads, just jump in. I do just generally think the second half was going so well, there was no need to introduce them. So we saved their legs in what's going to be a hell of a long season. We have an Evertonian, I think, in here. Or he's certainly donning an Everton shirt. And I've got a question for you, because it's one that we've debated as well. If we bid, I don't know, give me what would you lads say for Branthwaite? How much are you willing to pay? Like realistically, I'm saying 70 maybe.
Yeah,
I
60,
think
70, yeah.
I wouldn't pay more than 50, to be honest. I don't think, based off of one season at Everton, I really don't think we should be paying much more than that, in my opinion. Just so
reminds me of a modern day John Stones, though. He's fantastic. I proper rate.
Yeah, I proper rate him as well.
I don't know if he would be the one. I think he's one of them. It's kind of the same as Wharton, where it's there's definitely a player there, but I need even. And Wharton's played less than Branthwaite, and even with Branthwaite, I feel like I need to see more of Branthwaite. If that makes sense.
This is the question. I suppose
I think William would be more comfortable paying more for Branthwaite if we knew what SWAT was like at developing players. We haven't seen that yet. If Klopp went and spent 70 million on Branthwaite, you'd be like, yeah, we know we can turn him into even better than what we've already seen. But with Slot, we don't know that yet. But
yeah, I'd proper rate him. I'd pay 70 million for him, if I'm completely honest. And that just might keep Everton up, because they don't need a Branthwaite, they need 3 or 4 players, and that 70 million could go a long way.
They're going down with the current side, 100%. They look so bad. I know last year they had a good season, to be fair, didn't they? When they finished above Chelsea, they didn't have the points deduction.
Yeah, really good.
I just think you've got losing Onana and not replacing him. He's brilliant. He's fantastic signing for Villa. losing him and not replacing him, that's a big like risk for Everton. So I think this is the year, mate. I'm excited.
and they're up for a point deduction, aren't they, as well? Again, allegedly. So we'll have to see how that goes. And I do think the teams who have come up this year are far better than the teams who came up last year. You know, I think Everton and Forest to an extent were saved by the likes of Luton and Sheffield United and Burnley because they were absolutely terrible.
Switch have bought so well. So well. So I fancy them to stay up, to be fair. Switch have bought really well. And I think the Laps are a fantastic player for them. And they got that Sam Smoddock top goal in the Championship. He bought well.
I think
really well.
I think with Ipswich as well, they've had us and Man City as the first 2 games as well. So they've just had the most brutal start of the whole league. And I think people will most likely overlook that. But like 100%, they've bought him really well, and their manager is really good as well.
They should have been 1-2 up by half time against us. You know, I thought Amari Hutchinson as well. It seems to be an absolute player. So yeah, they're good. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a cheap FPL defender, when they have a nice little run, is Greaves at 4 million. Looks like absolute weapon on set pieces. So he might be one to look out for. Matty, keep him with you. Then we're mixing a bit of transfer news because Jez requested your opinion on Alvin Ayman, who's a 16-year-old. He's a 6/centre-back prospect who I don't know if it's first. We've actually now confirmed that signing from Wolves. But again, you know, the Liverpool Academy are bleeding in these youngsters and they're scouting around. We saw obviously the Chelsea youngster. We're just waiting for the paperwork to go through there as well. But again, another, what seems to me, I've seen very little of him, but what seems to me a very good signing again.
Yeah, he looks very, very good. I haven't seen much of him. I think he played once against us last year at the 18 level. I could be wrong. I haven't seen too much of him, but what I have seen, he looks very, very, very good, to be fair. And I don't know. I think the club must see him very highly because to be bringing someone in such a similar age to Bajcetic, you'd assume that obviously both of them aren't going to be starting a successful Liverpool in 5-10 years. So to bring someone in at 16, I think they must have seen something. What little I have seen, I've been very, very impressed by him, to be fair. And I think he's someone we'll probably see in cup games this year. Probably similar to Trey. He's a similar age to Trey, isn't he? But we've got loads. That's what there's been so much fume over us being prepared to get rid of some of these kids. But we've got loads coming through. Like I think Trent Cohn-Doherty, I think he's going to come out this year, and he's really, really good. And the benefit he's got on Doak, I'd probably say Doak had more potential, but I think because Doherty's been in the club now for 2 years before he's made the jump, where Doak only had like say 7 months, I think. But there's a few coming through, to be honest, and I'm quite excited. It looks like he's probably going to go straight into the 21. Same with that Rio kid from Chelsea. I think they're going straight into 23 it is now. I think that's where they're going. They're not even going to the 18. So that shows how highly the club rate them. Really, they're one step away from senior minutes.
And I think developing the centre backs, you know, for me is really, really important because Liverpool have always done a great job of attacking players. Even Trent, I know that, you know, Trent's come through and he's a right back, but he's not a traditional right back. You know, he's still, attacking wise, is still brilliant. Then you've got Trent Kane-Doherty as well. Throughout the years, you've obviously had Ben Woodburn, didn't quite hit the heights, but he looked like he was a real prospect coming through. Kate Gordon. You know, there's been so many good players. Jayden Danns, obviously, I'm not going to mention because I think everyone knows about him. But it's good that we were investing in the centre backs as well, you know, in a player like this, because we do need that next generation of centre backs coming through a little bit.
Yeah, and we've done that with West Ham last year as well. I think it was last year or the year before we got Amara Nallo. He's brilliant. He's really, 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 really good. So if he's coming in as well, we can play 6 and centre back, and you've got Trey who can play 6 and centre mid. So they are stocking up more on the defensive aspects, really. But it's a shame because basically a lot of the people that are letting go at that level is all the Scouse lads as well. So that's where you start seeing them fizzle out. And you've got so much high hope seeing them. But the Liverpool Academy is very, very, very good. I mean, the best youth academy is probably Chelsea, but Liverpool's isn't far behind. It's got a lot of talent coming through.
What did you think about the £300,000 to Bournemouth for Blair?
I didn't rate him, you know, and I know there's obviously, if you look into it, there's beef, isn't there, with Harvey Elliott and all that. So you often knew we weren't ever going to stay around Elliott's rated too high. I'm not going to read too much into that, but that little conspiracy theory, really. But I think we could have got more than 300 grand for him. He's good, but I think if you look at the move, he's gone to like a Portsmouth, whereas if he was going to say a a team that's just went down, or like a Sunderland who were challenging last year, or a Leeds, you probably get more of a fee. But Portsmouth are only just really trying to get the way back, really, aren't they? So I think that it's a good move for them. But 300 grand is cheap. But then, to be fair, he's got like a 17.5 sell-on clause.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I think, it was a 17.5% sell-on. So that for me was more important than an extra 7.5, like 700 grand to make it a cool million, because that 17.5, if he hits the heights, that he might do. I felt it felt relatively cheap until I saw the add-on and then thought, okay, fair enough. Willem, let's talk then about Harvey Elliott since he has been mentioned. Do you expect him? I certainly do. Do you expect him to get minutes tomorrow? And if you do, he can play in multiple positions. Where would you expect for him to come on? And let's say the game goes well, it goes smooth. There's no injuries. Where are you going to bring him in? You bring him, I'm assuming, for Dom or for Mo?
I think it would still probably be for Dom. I think that's probably where Slot also really has a vision of him playing. At least we're looking throughout preseason as well. The couple of times that he was used, I thought that was more of the idea with using him. And I think as well with the Mo Salah point, I get it with the whole resting stuff, but I think because it's the second game in the season, that it won't necessarily be the case where we'll be looking to kind of, if we're 2-0 up, to sub Mo Salah in the 60th minute already to kind of cover for it. I think this is still kind of the period of the season where you do let him play on through to kind of keep up on that form, because he has started off really well again. And you also kind of don't really want to break that rhythm either. So I think if he does play, he'll probably play for Szoboszlai, unless, God forbid, something happens with Salah tomorrow and he has to come on in earlier.
Okay, and I suppose, talking about the forward line, Patricio, that forward line, we have many options. It feels like we have a lot of options anyway at the moment. Are you expecting the same starting three up top, which obviously was Salah, Jota through the middle, and Luis Diaz on the left?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I'd imagine it'll be the same. I don't see any changes there. The only change I would personally want to see is Gakpo on the left. Seeing the Euros he's had, I would like to see him out there, but there must be a reason that Slot's choosing Diaz over Gakpo. Maybe he's performing better in training or something. The fact that Nunez isn't getting minutes as well over Jota. I know with Jota we can sort of rely on him. He's more clinical, but I don't want to burn him out quite early on and then he gets injured, and then we have to only rely on Nunez and maybe Gakpo to go in that striker role. So yeah, it'd be nice to see changes. It'd be nice to see Gakpo on. We'll have to see what he chooses.
Yeah, I mean, Gakpo came in through the middle for Jota, didn't he? Which surprised perhaps a few people, because I was, after the Euros, like you said, I said that, he needs to be starting on the left-hand side for the Reds, because he's so good at cutting in, and, that right foot of his is deadly. But at the same time, Diaz in pre-season, I thought was very, very good. He's had more time, I think, under Arne Slot. And I think, that goes a long way. We saw it in Quansah. Quansah had more time under Slot rather than Konate, and that's why he started. Diaz isn't going anywhere. That's what we've seen, from the transfer rumours. I'm glad about that, because I don't think he's replaceable. I think a few people, maybe myself included, said we might have swapped out Diaz for an Anthony Gordon, but I'm not going to do that this season. Patricio, just staying with you very quickly. What are Cody Gakpo's qualities, and what do you think puts him above Diaz if you're vying for him to start tomorrow?
He's a little bit more sort of like press proof, and he's a little bit stronger on the ball. Obviously, having the height advantage as well. I do think Diaz is a bit more technical, but I think Gakpo is, like you said, he is so good on that right foot. It's really predictable getting him on that right foot. Same with Diaz as well. They're both quite predictable with it. But I just like the way you see him sort of drop deep to get the ball and sort of run up on the wing, and he's quite good at doing that. And obviously he is pacey, but yeah, it would be nice to see how he does. Yeah, it would be nice.
Hello, thank you for your contribution when we're talking about Harvey Blair. Transfer to Portsmouth, £300,000, as we said, but there's 20% sell-on included and then double that 300 grand in add-ons. So, maybe not a bad deal. But again, like I said, that sell-on clause is the most important one for me. Here's one then for you, Matty. Liverpool 67 says, without Zobs, there is no legs in this midfield. I'm not going to give my opinion on that. You can.
Yeah, I think he's right. To be fair, I think Szoboszlai started well last week. He ended the season, I thought, poorly. Didn't have a brilliant Euros after starting really well last year, but probably argue slot style of play. He's probably more up Szoboszlai's street anyway. So I think he was fantastic against Ipswich. Deserves to start against Brentford again. I think he will probably start Nunez. I've just got this weird feeling he'll start Nunez against Brentford, because if they was to start, then he's one of the fastest centre backs, isn't he? Well, he was the fastest centre back in the Bundesliga. So I think having Nunez there, who is definitely faster than him, would help, especially with the way they're playing. But I suppose you can only be as good as your last game, and Josh was fantastic against Ipswich. So I think he'll start, and so was Diaz. I rated Diaz against Ipswich. I think Diaz, a lot of fans get frustrated with him because he's replaced Mane, who'd get you 15, 20 goals a season, and he's not that winger. He's a typical winger. So I think Diaz starts. I think we'll probably see the same sidebar, Kwanzaa and Kanate. And Szoboszlai, I think going back to him, I think this could be a season to, as long as he's consistent. He started last season fantastically. How happy was everyone with him? And he just seemed to drivel off, really. Didn't have the best of Euros either, but he looks exciting under slot. The games he played in pre-season, game last week, he looked all right. So I'm happy with the midfield, to be honest. I don't know, it's a shame for someone like Elliott, but Salah, the way they're playing, and Salah playing as like that 10 sort of role, it's working. So why would you change it?
He also, now Trent isn't coming inside, he fills that void where Trent wasn't he? Because he's obviously playing in that advanced 10 role. Sometimes we'll see Trent at the back end of last season playing in that 10 role. And I think now Zob's there, it allows Trent to just play his game and not worry about the creating aspect and the legs and the tracking back. I do think it was a bit of a wake-up call for Szoboszlai towards the back end, because he did look quite fatigued. He looked quite leggy towards the back end of last season. I think last year, we were saying by, I think, January, February time, he'd already played the amount of minutes he played in the Bundesliga the year before, and that's halfway through the season. And that's the issue with, I suppose, not just playing for Liverpool, but being a first-team player for Liverpool. It's going to be much worse this season, by the way, with 8 Champions League games rather than the traditional 6. But, Liverpool certainly need to keep the players like Szoboszlai freshly rotated, especially Jota, freshly rotated as well. And that's a great shout, by the way, if they are going to start Sepp. I'd love Nunez to go up against Sepp, because I think he'd have him on toast every day of the week and twice on Sundays. And luckily tomorrow is Sunday. Let's speak very quickly then, Matty, about Darwin, because he divides opinions, and it's a massive year for him, isn't it, this season?
I think for most fans, myself included, if he doesn't hit what we want him to hit this year, he'll probably be sold. I like Nunez, though, to be honest. I do like him. I think he's a player who excites you. You can see there's a player in there. If you can unlock that Benfica Nunez, there's definitely a player in there. I think this style of play will suit him. I think the only reason he hasn't started against Ipswich is he come back from the Copa America quite late, so he hasn't had much time learning slot system. But I think he'll play really well with it in like a 4-2-3-1, having that 10 behind him. To be honest, I think that'll unlock Nunez. He definitely needs that little bit more support where he can just focus on being the last man and just sprinting onto the ball and scoring. Really, I don't think he's a striker in a Klopp side where you track him back. I just don't think you're going to get that from a Darwin Nunez. And I think in a slot side, he won't have to track back as much. So he is just focusing on that last man. I mean, worries me because he likes being offside every week. But if we can fix that and stuff, I think he'll be all right. I think this season, if Jota is fit and available and does play, and Nunez, say, only bags 10 goals but is only coming off the bench and that, fans might be more lenient. But I think fans want to see us sort of have him as our mainstay of the side. And he's definitely got that potential. He's still only young, and anyone with that level of pace and that physicality on the ball, I think there definitely can be unlocked. Definitely. I was watching highlights of him at Benfica the other day, and it was unbelievable there. That's why we paid the money we did. So there's a way to get that Nunez playing, and eventually we will. Even for Uruguay, he's fantastic as well.
And it is that system. I do think, instinctively he's the best finisher in the club, but when he has time to think about it, he thinks for too long. You look at the Brentford game in the fixture last year, where Jota nods the ball down and Nunez runs onto it. And if I generally think he doesn't have time to think about the finish, and he could have gone through the legs, he could have tried to round the keeper, he could have went either side, but his instinct said, "Oh, I'll go over the top." And I don't know about you guys, as soon as he chipped it, my heart was in my mouth because I love Nunez. And I was like, oh my gosh, if this goes over, this is going to be like one of the worst misses ever. And it just nestled beautifully in the back of the net. And it's almost like Slot has a job on in terms of training his composure and improving his composure and decision making, because the instinct of finishing is there. The goal against Madrid, no one who I've seen, maybe apart from Bobby, would think about the back flick, into the net. There's you touch, you turn, and you bang. Like we saw, very similar to what Origi did against Wolves when the ball came in. He touched, got it out of his feet, turned and smashed it into the back of the net. Whereas Nunez, little flick, straight under Thibaut Courtois. Instinctively, he looks like he's one of the best finishers, like when he doesn't have to think about it, as silly as that sounds. It's when he has to think and settle and compose, and then he's got too many decisions in his head. For me, Slot coaches that out of him. And I know that Klopp had amazing results with the likes of Mane, the likes of Salah, Lewandowski, Aubameyang, etc. But I think, I don't know, I'm hoping that Slot is a little bit more of his system would fit in Nunez a little bit better in terms of like the decision making. He doesn't have to make that many decisions. And when he does, hopefully he'll get better at it. I mean, I don't know. That's maybe wishful thinking. Helio has asked Willem, and you can answer this question. I've yet to understand why LFC sold Bobby Clark. Are they that desperate for money? What are your thoughts on this sale? Because again, it's another one that's divided opinion.
I've not been particularly against the sales of the players that we've done, but what I am kind of frustrated with is that we are giving up our kind of what saved part of our depth last year due to the injuries we already had. And at the moment, not replacing it. And that's more of the issue for me. I think right now, if you look at it, we are pretty much one Gravenberch injury away from becoming quite unstable at the double pivot position already. If you think about it, because after it, we've pretty much Jones coming on it because they want to loan out Bajcetic, and it looks like they're also going to sell Morton. So I don't really know, like, we're going to have to start playing Szoboszlai in the six, but I'm not really open to that idea. I'm not going to lie. So I'm not against moving players on, because to be honest, whilst Bobby Clark is a good player, I don't think he would have been a player to really have ended up being a starter for us. But I do think that we do need to address the part that we are kind of lacking depth now in certain areas as well, along with the fact that we probably needed to already address one or two areas. And that is something now where in the long term we might see it's a very weird factor right now. I sometimes get the feeling that we're doing a bit of the 2020-2021 season where we didn't really replace Lovren at that time. And that came back, obviously, along with the fact they were quite freak injuries that happened to all three of our centre-backs, but we didn't replace it. And it came kind of to bite us back later in the season. And we needed, and we got Nat Phillips and Reece Williams to play really good football for 4 months, and somehow managed to scrape it through to get back into Champions League footy. And I do feel that we are at risk with a couple of injuries to kind of fall into that trap at the moment if we do just kind of keep doing what we're doing, which is only selling and not getting those two reinforcements that we need.
And that leads me on. Sorry, I couldn't get my mic off mute there. And that leads me on to Zia's question, really, that Patricio, you could tackle. Do the panel feel discussing games feels kind of secondary to the fact? I mean, well, that's a question for everyone, but Patricio, you could go first. Bearing in mind we have no first team signings, it's scary talking about lineups because I get worried, and then I'll ignore the Watkins and Nunez comment because Nunez is clear of Watkins.
I mean, I think anyone would like any fresh signings. I mean, that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm always in the group chat talking about it on a rant. But yeah, I know it's what we want, but obviously Slot doesn't seem to be too affected. He seems to think that we have got a good enough squad to compete as we are, at least until January. So, I mean, obviously we've only based it off the Ipswich game, and yes, he's had pre-season as well, but he also didn't have the entire first team back for pre-season. So I guess he still has to analyze where he wants. I mean, we didn't get the player we wanted in a certain position, but obviously there seems to be work being done in the background. Well, you like to think so, and hopefully the sale of these players can maybe, if it's not done by this window, with the short amount of days we have left to go, unless they pull like a masterclass off, then maybe that's money towards January or the next summer. They must have a plan in mind that they, and Slot said that he sees that Hughes is working on it. So yeah, it's just waiting to see what happens. But I'm not, although I'm quite vocal in the chat, I'm not overly concerned if Slot's all right with it. If Slot was saying something different, then I might have to be a bit more vocal.
Yeah, I mean, I think Slot is perhaps just working out his squad, like you said. Matty, again, I suppose the same question for you. I would personally much rather talk about the football than the transfers. For me, like, football is played on the pitch; it's not played in the boardroom. Yes, we absolutely need a DM, like, or not a DM, but because we don't play an anchor anymore. But we do need someone to cover for Mac and Gravenberch. I think the drop off after those two, and I will include Curtis Jones. I don't think a drop off from those two to Jones is that severe, but after Jones, it does feel a little bit more. I would always rather talk about the football, but yeah, it does need addressing. I suppose the end of this window is less than a week now, and it's sort of, I would love for everybody to finish the transfer window on the first day of the European season. Someone will tell me it starts in like the 1st of June, so that's impossible, I'm sure. But yeah, it does drag on when you want to be talking about the football and we're worried about transfers.
Yeah, I don't think Gomez will go unless someone's definitely coming in. We'd be stupid to let him go and not bring someone in. I do think we'll probably add 1, maybe 2 players in before the end of the week. I've heard like a few rumours about Zaït-Nouri as well. I'd take him. I haven't heard anything on a 6. I just don't think any 6 will come in. Which I'm a bit annoyed about, to be fair, like, because they've identified, we need a 6. Let's go and try get that Zubamani or whatever his name is, and doesn't happen. And like, right, okay, we don't need a 6 now. Well, obviously we do, because we've tried to get Casado last summer, we've tried to get Zubamani this summer, and then now we're just like, oh, we don't need one now. That's what I don't like. And I just think it's ridiculous that they can't tell me that there's not a single player in the world out there who can strengthen Liverpool. Like, Arsenal looks strong today. City always looks strong. And that's the only way. I mean, I'm still you know me, I think we'll win Everton at the start of every season. I think football would be boring if you didn't believe you could win Everton, but I think we'll need a lot of luck. And if we don't have any injuries, then yeah, we've probably got a chance. But the drop off from like our strongest 11 to the rest, we definitely need players to come in and maybe say you got a 6 in, you'd assume Gravenberch would then go onto the bench, but then the quality on your bench improves because you've got someone like him on your bench. So we definitely need some players in this week. I think there'll be a lot of fume if we don't bring anyone in this week. Rightfully so. Like, we should have a budget of nearly 200 million, really, shouldn't we? Because we were going to buy Casado for 115 million. We brought in nearly 70 odd million in sales with Sepp going and that. So we should have a good budget. So why is the no one coming in? Do you know what I mean? We definitely need a defensive reinforcement. I think we're all right going forward. To be fair, I think there's a lot of players for them positions of this, and you've got players like Elliott and now on the bench in the first week. So I don't think we need any attacking depth, but we definitely need a centre back. I think even without it, before Gomez goes, Matip, and I know Van den Berg were in here last year, but you automatically assume that he's like going to be 4th choice. Bar like Van Dijk, if Gomez goes, we've got 3 starting centre backs. So we definitely have to have someone coming in. Definitely.
It's going to be 3 in Nat Phillips. At the end of the day, that's who it's going to be. And again, as much as I love the Bolton Baresi, he isn't at the level of Joe Gomez. And let's not forget, Joe Gomez can cover multiple positions. Nat Phillips is a centre back, and that's it. So
he's gone in here.
Yeah,
someone out like 60 grand a week. That's why he's still here. He's full, and no one wants him. They're paying him 60 grand a week, so he's here for another 12 months. Probably get loaned out and not play. The kid couldn't even get game minutes on his loan spell. He shouldn't have asked, but who would be getting 60 grand a week just to go and live in different parts of the country for a few months? It's sad, isn't it?
Mate, 60 grand a week to train at one of the greatest football clubs of all time, but also one of the greatest training complexes of all time. You'd be built like a machine, wouldn't you? Like that's literally getting paid 60 grand a week. I'd be ripped to shreds.
He'll go to like a West Ham or something next summer, not Phillips, and he'll be on about 30 grand a week, but he's earned his money at Liverpool. Yeah. I don't know who the hell sanctioned a 60 grand a week deal for him. He's on more than Luis Diaz, you know. That's mad. Yeah.
I mean, maybe he deserved it after him and the Williams masterclass that it was. It's just a shame that Jurgen perhaps didn't see that beforehand, that we were having to see Fabinho and Hendo at centre back. But alas, fair play. If Phillips sees out his contract, I hold no grudges against him at all. Alluding to that, that Ian Doyle quote from earlier, William, he said, and again, I apologise, I'm looking down, looking at my phone, with the Reds not expected to turn their attentions to recruiting another 6 ahead of Friday's transfer evening deadline, the opportunity will be there for current players to seize their chance and nail down a regular starting place in their role. What are your thoughts on that?
At least they've used a bit of a different wording this year with the position that kind of comes short, so I don't mind it. Look, I think at this point, like all the noise coming from the journalists, it really doesn't it just doesn't affect me anymore, because I think even this summer it's shown that even Ornstein was scared to name Zubimendi in the first report he did of us targeting the 6, and I think that also kind of shows to the point now where literally no one has a clue. I think even Joyce said it on I think it was Born and Red on their playback, where even he said like they're not even briefing the journalists anymore and they're not letting us know anything. So I wouldn't. It's like one of them where it's like it's what I've been saying for the past few weeks now. It's brilliant about working in the dark when everything goes well and no one's heard anything or no one's known anything. It looks amazing and it pulls everything off. But then when we've had these couple of sagas now, which has been Zubimendi and obviously Caicedo and Lavia the summer before it, it really looks like a big mess. And I don't just, for me, General, I've gotten to the point now where based of the patterns from this summer, where it took a week to kind of get the whole Zubimendi thing sorted, but like to get an answer from him, even not like, just even that whole process, then getting the no in the end, then already kind of briefing out that there wasn't an alternative target coming in. For me, that got to the point where I was like, okay, it's going to be the goalkeeper, if that even happens now, because even that is dragging out. And I can't see anything else happening this window, but purely because of the pattern that we're really taking to work on these deals as well. So I can't see with the speed that we've been working on all summer that we all of a sudden get 2 or 3 in the next 6 days.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. If we are looking at Marmashvili, I think it's a great sign-in for future-proofing. But yeah, I don't think there's a profile out there actually who can fit what we want. I don't think there is a Zubimendi out there, if I'm honest, because if there was, he would have been our second choice and we would have made our moves early. So yeah, it might be reassessed in January and go again, which isn't good enough. Like Matty said, we have needed this position now since Fabi left, and maybe even future-proofing before Fabi. But then yes, you had Bajcetic perhaps and Tyler Morton.
It started with Tchouaméni, even when Fabinho was still around. Yeah. That was the first one already when we had it.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we'll have to see what happens in the next 6 days. But the fact it ends on Friday, yes, all journos will not be briefed. No one's going to have a clue. It'll probably, hopefully, happen like a Fabinho, like a Jota transfer deal where it comes out of the blue. Let's go for this one, Patricia. It seems to be landing on you, these questions. So I apologize.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that he uses like a lot of young players, although we're getting them out, aren't we? Like we're getting rid of some of them on loan and stuff. He is judging off a small squad, and like you said, the not getting signings in is gonna affect us, especially if someone gets injured. So that is a worry. I'm hoping Gravenberch can do a role and can do well in that sixth position. But like you said, if he gets injured, then what? And especially if we do see Endo going, and if Slot doesn't see him as an option, then we do have to use Jones there or McAllister there or someone. So it is quite concerning. We do need to bolster, like especially in positions where we're short. It is quite worrying. Like, just imagine VVD goes out, and then maybe what we have Kwanzaa and Kanate. Yes, that's still good, but not really a left-sided centre back that we're looking for. So he hasn't really given a lot to Slot for work, or like the club haven't given a lot for Slot to work with. But they've given him a good first team, and then kind of said, deal with what you have as the options. Whereas I think this window they needed to attack that and actually get that sorted, get that six sorted, so then we can feel confident going into the season. Someone in the back line and maybe someone right wing, and as an understudy for Mo. That would have been like those three signings would have made for a good window, I reckon. Like I think an Ignacio or like a Hincapié would be someone good for that left centre back. Even a Pacho before he made his move would have been good. So I guess it's just seeing like Matty and William said, we only got 6 days. We might not see anything. We're probably not going to see anything happen, in my opinion. But like I said, the journalists don't really know anything at this point. So yeah, it'll be weird to see what happens.
Hopefully a bolt from the blue or two, because that's I personally think that's what we need. Let's talk about Brentford then, Matty, because they are a difficult team. I think for me, over the past 5 years, they've been the most impressive team in terms of coming up and staying up, but actually doing really well when they've stayed up. They've never really hung on, in a season where you think, oh, are they going to get relegated? I think they've been really, really good, and I proper rate Thomas Frank me. So again, let's talk about Brentford. What do you expect to see? Who are their key players, and what do you think their threats could be? And more importantly, are you going tomorrow as well?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. Nipping out at work as I always do. So hopefully none of my bosses watch before I say I'm going. Yeah, I think that one of the main threats is Fabio Carvalho, to be honest. Like, we've seen all of his pre-season. He's been massively impressive for Liverpool in pre-season. Probably will make his start for Brentford. I don't think Sepp will start for them, but I think he's a massive threat. I think if Tony plays, he's a massive threat, but I think they're not letting him play out until the end of the window in case he does go. And he's got a good side. They've got good players throughout it, really. You think of Embuemo, I think he's a threat as well, but I just can't get a Carvalho goal out my head. I think it always happens that our former players always come back and score against us, even if they've been crap all year. Where Fabio's had a fantastic loan at Hull. He's had a fantastic pre-season at Liverpool, got himself a few goals. Probably unfortunate that the players above him are just world-class, really, Carvalho, but I think he's a big threat tomorrow. I'm looking forward to him, a bit apprehensive. Don't know how I'm going to take seeing a baldy fella on the touchline and not Jurgen's big smile. And even the end of the game, like he said yesterday, that he doesn't do the fist pumps and stuff. Not that I want them to, and not comparing them, but I'm going to miss that. I used to love that at the end of every game, like the fans would stick around and do that fist pump with Jurgen. And more fans I felt stayed because of that than where they usually get off on like 88, 89 minutes to get to the car. So that'll be interesting as well. But I'm looking forward to it. I am, but a little bit gutted as well. It's a little bit bittersweet at the same time, because it's the first game in Anfield without Jurgen. I know we had a Sevilla friendly, but it's not the Premier, is it? So I'm a little bit apprehensive that side. But I think we'll beat Brentford comfortably. But I do think Fabio Carvalho will score. I think he's a big threat.
I reckon wait until the team sheet's right, because I think Shade would start over him, and you might get really good odds for Carvalho if he's on the bench to come on and score. So yeah, I would definitely be sticking a couple of quid on, because he did look electric in pre-season. And to be fair, every time I've seen him in Liverpool shirt, I've always been impressed by him. I was best man again.
I proper like him. I don't know why we sold him. Yeah. It makes no sense. Like, he's a good option.
Yeah, I've always liked him, and I think I told you the story before. One of my best friends is a season ticket holder. He's been a season ticket holder for Newcastle since they were in the Championship. Like proper fan. Goes every week, gets a plane, and goes. He actually, funny story aside, he actually used to tell his ex-missus that he was going to work, but he actually used to go to the airport in London, get a flight over to Newcastle, then fly back again on the Saturday, and then say that he's been at work all day. She never found out, but Krisha, if you're watching, that's what he used to do, and that's probably why you're exes now. But anyway, and I was best man at his wedding. And I say was because when Carvalho scored that goal against Newcastle at Annie Road End, I was going mad in the chat. I was like, "You're not going to a wedding anymore!" Rah, 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 rah. And proper lost his head, and his wife's brother-in-law as well. So that was great. But I've proper rated Carvalho. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I could probably see him scoring tomorrow. Hopefully, it'll be when we're 7 or 8-0 up, and it won't really matter. And maybe he can get his just as that's there. Willem, what do you think about tomorrow?
I do. I mean, I'm not actually too worried, which is normally not a good thing, by the way. Normally for me, it goes, if I'm worried before a game, it tends to be fine. If I'm not worried before a game, the opposite tends to happen. So I'm kind of wary of the fact that I'm not too worried. For me, to be honest, right now, I think Mbeumo is definitely their main. I think the matchup of Mbeumo and Robertson tomorrow will be an interesting one. But again, we have Van Dijk behind Robbo, so that is another thing to catch up with it. Wissa always seems to be someone who's really good for the first 5 seasons of the game, and then of the first 5 games of the season. Sorry, I said it the wrong way around. And then kind of like just drops off after it. So he might just be in that spell where he might be still on a bit of form. And I saw a bit of their game against Palace last week, and I didn't think that Shard looked too bad either from the couple of minutes that I saw him, but not enough to really say if it's going to be a proper threat or anything or not. But apart from attacking too much, I kind of look at the rest of their team, and even in defense, like I think if Sepp would start for them, I think Sepp solves a pace issue. But one thing for Sepp that I have noticed, that for someone who is 6'5", he's not actually that strong in aerial duels as well. Which I think, for example, I think even if we were to just, because Nunez said before that, or Matty said before that he would start Nunez, maybe to kind of go up against the pace of Sepp against it. But I would still actually keep Jota more purely for the fact that Jota is really strong in the air as well. And the way kind of I've seen, or at least if you look at a couple of patterns from our play, it seems to be a very vocal point that Jota wins his duel to kind of win the ball back, pass it back to Szoboszlai, and then get it to one of the running wingers of either Mo or Luis Diaz on there. So I think at the end of the day that kind of no matter who you put in there, apart from their attack, I'm not too worried. So even if they score 1 or 2, I expect us to score 2 or 3. So it does kind of come down to that. I'm not too worried. If I were, it would be kind of their right-hand side of the attack.
Yeah, I think Mbeumo unlocks, whatever it is that Brentford do if Tony's not playing. I think if Tony plays, it's a different game because you can almost leave Wissa to Konate and Van Dijk, as you said, double up on Mbeumo if he goes past Robbo. Patricio, is Mbeumo your main threat? For me, I think Willem was really, right in what he said about Sepp. He is a bit gangly, isn't he? He's a bit wiry. I would put Nunez up against him, especially if he is starting and he is still on the pitch at 60 minutes. I'd certainly put Nunez up against him. But is there anyone else, I suppose, in that Brentford team that could cause Liverpool any potential problems?
No, I feel like you're right. The main threat is Mbeumo. I mean, like Matty said, potentially Carvalho could come on as a sub. I don't see him starting, to be honest. I do potentially see him come on as a sub, and I think he'll want to impress the new boss as well. So other than that, I mean, with Sepp in the back as well, like you said, he is quite gangly, quite lanky. So I would prefer, to be honest, I would like to see Nunez start and see how he does. Maybe bring Jota on if we just aren't getting finishing through. But like Nunez said anyway, as in an interview, he said it might take him 10 shots and he misses, but his 11th shot he'll score. So it's just unlocking that bit from him, knocking that player out of him. I'm actually quite excited for the game, whereas William's a bit worried. Not worried. I'm actually I'm not worried either. I'm actually quite just excited. First game at Anfield.
Worried about
it'd
not
be-
being worried is the best way of kind of putting it with me. That's just pre-game feelings.
Yeah, and to be honest, with Klopp, I went more into games a bit more worried last season, especially towards the end, where before our sort of kind of downfall. But this time, I'm just excited to see what Slot can bring, what he can produce with this from the team. No worry from me, to be honest.
Good, and we'll. I'll tell you what, very quick then. Before we go on to our predictions, Jay's asked, "Will Joe be back in the squad?" Because that is a good question. You know, obviously he was left out of the squad pending a transfer, and that's actually when the news broke saying that he's not in the squad because he's looking at his options elsewhere. So, do you think that Gomez, with what will tomorrow be 5 days left of the window, Matty, do you think that Joe is in the squad? Yes or no?
I think he'll be in the squad. I don't think he'll play just in case he does go. But I think he'll be on the bench just to eliminate any rumours on that, to be honest. Before we go as well, Richie, I just want to say, Stephen Garrett is 47 points off top already in FPL. The one who's insisting having no Haaland's the way forward. 47 points off top.
It was always, like I said, it was always for me, who's going to score most in the first 6 game weeks, and you have to go Salah or Haaland. I know some of you have gone both. I've gone Salah because I like to spread the money elsewhere. And I think after game week 6, Haaland's in because those fixtures for Manchester City from game week 7 onwards, Haaland, if he's fit, is going to haul. So, yeah, that's not good for Steve because he likes to take a minus. He likes to do a Salah, actually, what Salah did today, and take a minus 34-point hit every now and then.
Yeah, he's lost a lot. He's mad. He should have won last year, but I 477,000 people triple captained Haaland today, senior on fantasy footy.
Yeah, it was record, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was one of them.
I was not because I don't own him. So let's do the predictions then. Willem, you can start with the predictions, match predictions tomorrow. And if you feel real confident, you can give us a goal scorer as well. If you think there is going to be a goal, you might think it's 0-0.
3-1, Jota double, Salah the other one.
Oh, wow. You've gone for all 3 goal scorers. Good. Fantastic. 3-1. Patricio.
I never do it, so I did it randomly, to be fair.
See, I'd like to say, because of how we've been defending recently, I would like to hope for a clean sheet, maybe a 2-0 win. And yeah, I do think Jota and Salah will bag. Salah has to bag. I think he will, for sure.
And Matty.
I'm going to go 3-1. Salah. Going to get both, and Szoboszlai's going to get the other one. I fancy him tomorrow. I see Muse has said that as well. I've just got a feeling he's going to have a banger tomorrow. And Salah 2 goals, Jota 2 assists, hopefully just to boost me further in FPL. That'll be nice.
Yeah, do you know what, Felina, if I was going to say 2 or 3-0 Liverpool, I see us keeping a clean sheet. I think we're far better defensively with that double pivot ahead of us. So I think it'll be 2 or 3-0. And I was going to say Szoboszlai to score one as well. I just think he's got a banger coming. And I might have to join Jay there and on having a few quid on Zobo. Maybe not first goal scorer, but anytime goal scorer as well. Oliver's gone 4-0. Jay's gone 2-1. And yeah, listen, Salah saw what Haaland's done. Haaland scored 3 today. Salah's not going to be happy with that. So he's going to be chomping at the bit tomorrow. And hopefully he can bag those who don't have Haaland and do have Salah as their captain, can catch up to Matty and the clan and those 400,000 people who triple captained Haaland, because we are a little bit of a way behind now. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. We've got nearly 4,500 people viewing us right now. So if you haven't already, please do give us a like and a subscribe. We will be back, obviously, tomorrow night and every single night this week as we, I suppose, wind up to the transfer deadline day. We're not winding down because we've never wound up in the first place in terms of buying players. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of action. We're only asking for a little bit, not a lot, Richard Hughes, if you are watching. We're not asking for miracles here. But thank you all for joining us. Like I say, it's been an absolute blast. Next Saturday, obviously, we have the match preview for the big one. My favourite game of the season is Liverpool-Manchester United. Or the reverse, I suppose. It's at Old Trafford to Manchester United-Liverpool. So, yeah, join us, please, for that as well. But for now, and as always, up the Reds.